This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM.
Good morning. 2 arrested over a Exuma boating accident that injured a tourist. Police investigating the country's latest murder. And the leader of the opposition calling it an emergency, a national emergency, asking for the government's plan in response to alarming teen mental health reports. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Monday, July 7th, 2025. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Deandra Cartwright will be joining us. Also this morning, we'll be talking with a child psychologist about what came out of that report, that Ministry of Health report on what children are going through in our country. And later in business, we're talking about climate change and the impact on health and more. That's all straight ahead. But first, it's time for The Overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, F&M leader Michael Pintard says that the findings of the newly released Global School Health Report from the Ministry of Health amount to a national emergency as he laid out his party's proposed response to address mental health concerns facing Bahamian teenagers, saying, quote, "This is not just a health crisis, it is a national emergency, and it must be met with urgency and compassion from every one of us, from government to faith-based organizations, from teachers to parents, from health professionals to community leaders. This moment requires all of us to respond, not tomorrow, not next year, but now." That report, which was released last week, surveyed more than 2,000 Bahamian teenagers across 35 public and private schools on 8 islands. It found that 1 in 5 of those students attempted suicide, while 1 in 4 contemplated it. Pintard says the F&M is proposing a national plan to address the findings that would be built around accessibility, prevention, and long-term care. Well, nearly 2 years since the Protection Against Violence Act was passed, Bahamas Crisis Center Executive Director Dr. Sandra Dean Patterson is calling on the government to prioritize the establishment of the Protection Against Violence Commission, which she said would play a crucial role in drawing attention to the dire statistics as it relates to violence against women and girls in the Bahamas. Dean Patterson said the public would be horrified to glean an understanding of the extent of the issue. The Protection Against Violence Act provides for the protection and support of victims of violence through the creation of a national strategy to prevent and respond to the occurrence of violence and to protect victims of violence. The legislation allows for the establishment of a Protection Against Violence Commission to work with the responsible minister to ensure that victims are treated with compassion and dignity and have access to justice without unnecessary delays. Police investigating the latest murder. A woman was killed on New Providence Saturday. Police say the woman was attacked by a man she knew while on Watland Street off Cordo Avenue around 3:30 a.m. The 48-year-old was taken to the hospital where she died. Police arrested a 55-year-old man in connection with that matter. Police also say that a girl was sexually assaulted in New Providence by a man on Saturday. According to police, the incident happened at a business on Balfour Avenue around 8 p.m. The victim was sexually assaulted by a man only known to her by name. Police not providing any further details up to this point. Police in Exuma arresting 2 men in relation to a grievous harm by negligence following a boating accident that left an American tourist severely injured last week. The Exuma residents, 55 and 21-year-olds, were being questioned in connection to the incident that occurred in Tar Bay waters on Tuesday evening. The victim, identified as Brent Slaw of Texas, was on vacation in Exuma with his wife and 2 daughters when he was struck by the propeller of a 20-foot boat. While snorkeling, the boat never stopped, leaving beachgoers and Slaw's family to rush to his rescue. He was transported to a clinic on the back of a truck and kept overnight at the facility with lacerations to his lower body until he was airlifted to the United States the following morning. In an interview with CBS News, Brent Slaw recounted the moment he was struck. According to CBS, the family arrived in the Bahamas last Monday and was supposed to vacation in Exuma for 10 days. Slaw's wife, Whitney, shared her plans to return to the Bahamas, determined to find the boat operators responsible and bring them to justice. A security guard who stole $3,000 in a phishing scam granted a conditional discharge. Valentino Farquharson would avoid spending 6 months in prison if he completes 6 months of probation, 100 and repays the stolen money. At his arraignment before Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley Friday, Farquharson pleaded guilty to stealing and money laundering. Back on April 22nd, Marco Smith received a text saying that his account at First Caribbean CIBC had been placed on hold. The text told him that the matter would be resolved by clicking on the link CIB Fixer. When Smith clicked on the link, his account was hacked and $6,500 was transferred to Farquharson, who withdrew $3,000 from an ATM. He was unable to access the rest of the money after the bank placed a hold on his account. Farquharson's lawyer said Smith had fallen on hard times and had used the money to pay outstanding bills. Well, Farquharson. The magistrate said that this was no excuse to engage in fraudulent activity and noted there had been an increase in financial crimes. Nonetheless, the court gave Farquharson a second chance, and as he had no previous convictions. And a top defense lawyer who was arrested and charged after police officers refused to let him see a client plans to file a civil suit following his acquittal on Friday. David Cash faced charges of disorderly behavior in a police station and obscene language concerning an incident on November 2nd, 2024, at the Central Police Station in Freeport. Cash, who is based in New Providence, traveled to Freeport to see his client, Murphy Knowles, the owner of an elder care facility. Knowles was detained for questioning after the family of one of her residents, Ingrid Carey, accused her of fraudulently taking control of her assets. Cash showed up at the station where Knowles was detained for a routine client visit. However, a sergeant on duty refused him access to her, saying that Knowles already had another lawyer. This sparked an exchange of words. Cash was arrested after he used some expletives. Cash spent 11 hours in the station's lockup before he was released. He was later allowed to see Knowles, who was released without charge. Magistrate LaQuay Lang acquitted Cash of the charges following a trial. Cash told the Nassau Guardian he was grateful that the court saw fit to acquit him, but he said he intended to pursue justice for the treatment he was subjected to by the authorities. Overseas, from Texas, with more rain on the way, the risk of life-threatening flooding still high in central Texas today, even as crews search urgently for the missing following a holiday weekend deluge that killed at least 82 people, including children at summer camps. Officials say the death toll is sure to rise. Residents of Kerr County began clearing mud and salvaging what they could from the demolished properties as they recounted harrowing escapes from rapidly rising floodwaters late Friday. Meanwhile, rescuers maneuvering through challenging terrain filled with snakes continued their search for the missing, including 10 girls and a counselor from Camp Mystic, an all-girls summer camp that sustained massive damage. Governor Greg Abbott said 41 people were unaccounted for across the state and more could be missing. In the Hill Country area, home to several summer camps, researchers have found the bodies of 68 people, including 28 children. 10 other deaths were reported in Travis, Burnett, Kendall, Tom Green, and Williamson counties. The governor warned that additional rounds of heavy rains lasting into Tuesday could produce more dangerous flooding, especially in places already saturated. Russia firing more than 100 drones at civilian areas of Ukraine overnight. Authorities confirming this as the Kremlin dismissed the country's transport chief after a weekend of travel chaos when Russian airports grounded hundreds of flights due to the threat of Ukrainian drone attacks. At least 10 civilians were killed and 38 injured, including 3 children, in Russian attacks over the previous 24 hours. Russia recently has intensified its aerial strikes on civilian areas after more than 3 years of war. Over the past week, Russia launched some 1,270 drones, 39 missiles, and almost 1,000 powerful glide bombs at Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky. Russia's bigger army is also trying to break through at some points along the roughly 620-mile front line where Ukrainian forces are severely stretched. And the BRICS bloc of developing nations Sunday condemning the increase of tariffs and attacks on Iran, but refrained from naming U.S. President Donald Trump. The group's declaration, which also took aim at Israel's military actions in the Middle East, also spared its member Russia from criticism and mentioned war-torn Ukraine just once. The two-day summit was marked by the absences of 2 of its most powerful members. China's President Xi Jinping did not attend the BRICS summit for the first time since he became the country's leader in 2012. And Russian President Vladimir Putin, who spoke via video conference, continues to mostly avoid traveling abroad due to an international arrest warrant issued after Russia invaded Ukraine. In an indirect swipe at the U.S., the group's declaration raised, quote, serious concerns about the rise of tariffs, which it said were inconsistent with World Trade Organization rules. The BRICS added that those restrictions threaten to reduce global trade, disrupt global supply chains, and introduce uncertainty. Meanwhile, Trump, in a post on his social media platform late Sunday, said any country that aligns itself with what he termed, quote, the anti-American policies of BRICS will be levied an additional 10% tariff. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who hosted the summit, criticized NATO's decision to hike military spending by 5% of GDP annually by 2035. That sentiment was later echoed in the group's declaration. BRICS was founded by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but the group last year expanded to include Indonesia, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. As well as new members, the bloc has 10 strategic partner countries, a category created at last year's summit that includes Belarus, Cuba, and Vietnam. That rapid expansion led Brazil to put housekeeping issues, officially termed institutional development, on the agenda to better integrate new members and to boost internal cohesion. Absences, the summit is important for attendees, especially in the context of instability provoked by Trump's tariff wars. Earlier on Sunday, a pro-Israel nonprofit placed dozens of rainbow flags on Ipanema Beach in Brazil to protest Iran's policies regarding LGBT plus people. On Saturday, human rights group Amnesty International protested Brazil's plans for offshore oil drilling near the mouth of the Amazon River. It's time for sports, brought to you by Kalik. The Bahamas came up just a bit short for the third straight title at the 2025 North American, Central American, and Caribbean Athletic Association Under 13 and Under 15 Age Group Championships, wrapped up on Sunday in Nicaragua. The Bahamas' 8-member team finished with 27,972 points, trailing just Grenada, which won the two-day meet with 27,993 points. Jamaica was the early leader, but one of their athletes suffered a major injury, which took them out of contention for the overall title. Barbados finished third with 27,716 points. So the Bahamas won the under 15 girls division with 7,997 points, finished third in the under 13 girls division, finished fourth in the under 15 boys division, and sixth overall in the under 13 boys division. But individually, the Bahamas finished with a silver medal from a number of athletes. You can read more in today's Guardian Sports section. And the Bahamas ended their run at the 68th Caribbean Amateur Golf Championships with the 5th place Golf Club in Bridgetown Friday. The team finished with a cumulative total of 14 points, tied with the host country for both the Orman Cup and the George Teal Trophy combined. They were one spot shy of a fourth place finish, which they earned at the 67th edition of the event. Puerto Rico emerges the victor with 38 total points. Dominican Republic second, Trinidad and Tobago third. And in an effort to grab one of two remaining spots in the relay competition for World Athletics Outdoor Championships in September, the Bahamas sent two teams to the inaugural Barbados Grand Prix over the weekend in Bridgetown. Without global superstar Stephen Gardner and Shawnee Miller-Weibo, the Bahamas competed in the men's 4x400 meters and mixed 4x400 meter relay events. And while the teams were competitive, there's still quite a bit of time to cut in order to qualify for the World Championship. More on that in today's Guardian Business section. Guardian Sports section, as the team failed to qualify, just short of qualifying so far. From the NBA, Kevin Durant's trade to the Houston Rockets is official and officially record-setting. The deal got approved by the NBA on Sunday, as part of the 7-team transaction, one in which a slew of other trade agreements got folded into one massive package. Involved in the deal, Phoenix, Houston, Atlanta, Minnesota, Golden State, Brooklyn, and the LA Lakers. It includes 13 players, including the headline-making move of Durant going to Houston from Phoenix, the Rockets sending Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks to the Suns, and the Rockets acquiring Clint Capella from the Hawks. The 7-team involvement in the Durant trade tops the previous record of 16 transaction last summer that sent Klay Thompson to the Dallas Mavericks. Golden State, Thompson's former team, obviously part of another trade, as were Charlotte, Minnesota, Philadelphia, and Denver at that time. There will be at least 5 second-round draft picks in the deal before all terms were satisfied. The potential for another second-round pick swap, and the Hawks and Timberwolves both had to receive some cash considerations to make all the math work. And some of those draft picks won't actually be made until 2032, which raises the serious possibility that some players who will go down in history as being part of the trade haven't reached high school yet. Durant averaging his 17th in the NBA, not counting 1 year missed because of injury. For his career, the 6'11" forward is averaging 27.2 points and 7 rebounds per game. The move brings Durant back to the state of Texas, where he played his only year of college basketball for the Longhorns and was a College Player of the Year before going as the number 2 pick in the 2007 draft by Seattle. Houston becomes his fifth franchise, joining the Supersonics, who then became the Oklahoma City Thunder. Golden State, Brooklyn, and Phoenix. Durant won his two titles with the Warriors in 2017 and 2018, and last summer in Paris became the highest-scoring player in U.S. Olympic basketball history and the first men's player to be part of 4 gold medal teams. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather, but this sports break brought to you by Kalik. Pop the Top is back and is bigger than ever. Kalik, the beer of the Bahamas, is giving away up to $200,000 in cash and prizes. Purchase your favorite Kalik beer and look under the cap. You could be a winner. Free Kalik beer, free merch, or cold hard cash could be yours just for drinking Kalik. Kalik reminds you to drink responsibly. In your first look at weather for today, we've got a broad Atlantic surface ridge that is bringing a typical summertime pattern back to most of the islands for today, with gentle to moderate breezes and very warm temperatures. Meanwhile, a weak surface trough to the near east of the islands may bring 1 or 2 spotty showers and cloudy intervals. So that surface trough and an associated mid to upper level disturbance will move into the area by Tuesday, and that's going to bring some more cloudiness and elevate shower and thunderstorm chances through to the middle of the week. So UV indices are going to be high, as we've been seeing for the past few weeks, in the extreme range today. Everyone's being advised to remain hydrated, limit sun exposure, and wear protective clothing. The heat index is going to be in the triple digits as well. There is also a risk of rip currents for Atlantic exposed beaches, especially and south coastal waters in the northern Bahamas. Beachgoers are urged to exercise caution in these areas. A thin plume of Saharan dust may bring some milky skies across portions of the central and southeast Bahamas today as well. Your forecast for today for the extreme northern islands, a mix of sun and clouds, becoming partly sunny by afternoon, and then mostly fair at night with a 10 to 20% chance of showers or thunderstorms in the afternoon. Winds east to southeast at 10 knots or less, falling lighter and variable at times. For the rest of the northwest Bahamas, partly sunny today, becoming mostly fair tonight, a 10 to 20% chance of showers or thunderstorms by the afternoon. Winds easterly at 10 knots or less. For the central southeast Bahamas, expect a mix of sun and clouds at first, becoming partly sunny and a bit hazy by the afternoon, and partly cloudy at night. A 10 to 20% chance of showers. Winds easterly at 10 to 15 knots, shifting east-northeast to east towards this evening for the central islands, and for the southeastern Bahamas, easterly at 15 to 20 knots, shifting east-northeast to east by this evening, and decreasing to 10 to 15 knots with slightly higher gusts by nightfall. Temperatures, we're looking at highs around 92 Fahrenheit, 33 Celsius today. The heat index will make it feel like it's 105 Fahrenheit, 41 Celsius. Wow. Overnight lows tonight getting down to a very warm 81 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook and a look at the tropics coming up in just a bit. This weather check brought to you by Star General Insurance, made simple.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
It is time for a break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Wake up, it's a new day.
Throughout history, from bartering in ancient markets to the invention of paper currency, convenience has been at the heart of the way we pay. As time marched on, so have we, from barter to cash and cash to digital. Whether you pay with an online bank transfer, digital wallet, or contactless card, with digital payments, options abound. The world never stops evolving, and neither should you. Choose freedom, choose flexibility, choose convenience. The future of pay is digital. Visit us online at livedigitalbahamas.com and on social media.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Looking to elevate your gadget game, or a tech trouble simply slowing you down? Escape to a world of innovation at Custom Computers, your go-to store for the latest cutting-edge tech. Whether you need to upgrade your life with the best from Apple and Windows, or your device needs a little TLC, the Custom Computers Know-How Store is the destination for unbeatable expertise and quality repairs. With 2 convenient locations, there's a Custom Computers near you on Patton Street in Palmdale and Caves Village, or call 396-1100.
Abaco, get ready for the summer's official rum and beer lingo. Royalty Sounds present Found Fast. Found Fast. Saturday, July 5th, Morris Harbor, Abaco at the Royal Recreational Ground. Gates open 5 p.m., $20 entry. Ladies free before 8 p.m. with Nassau and Abaco's hottest DJ. Don't miss the beer drinkers versus rum drinkers competition.
Right, pulling for the best side, icicle liquor.
Damn rum for me. Found Fast, July 5th, Abaco. Sponsored by Collect, the Beer of the Bahamas. Drink responsibly.
Shell, you home? My gas just gone out. Let me know small barbecue tank you have. I tell you, long time, go get a barbecue tank from Caribbean Gas. They just got a new shipment of tanks of all sizes. Now you know they always have the best prices. Tell them you heard it on 106.5 FM, and they will give you $5 off. Caribbean Gas, 361-6007 or 552-9597. You are you now.
Big plans, unexpected expenses, whatever life throws your way, Fidelity is here with loans tailored to fit any of your personal financial needs. With a quick turnaround and a built-in savings that pays you interest, we make battling unexpected expenses easy. Make that move today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
When can I open my eyes?
Not yet. Okay, open. Do you see what I see?
It just looks like land to me.
It's our land, son. A wise investment that will grow with you.
Invest in land with CIBC Caribbean and we'll give you US $250 towards your valuation cost and 50% off your loan application fee. With CIBC Caribbean Land Financing, you can choose to build, hold, or pass on to your children. Visit CIBCCaribbean.com to learn more. Conditions apply.
Southwest Plaza has so many stores, I've been trying to find a sensible way to list them all. There's CBS Bahamas, the Ashai Institute, BENC Snack World, Bamboo Shack Bahamas, there the Athlete's Foot and BTC, Games and More, John Bull Fine Threads, Alive, Bahari, Dairy Queen, 700 Wines and Spirits, Sandy's Clocks and Island Lock, Starbucks and Lowe's Pharmacy, plus Marco's Pizza and Lorraine. Southwest Plaza, what a wide array of stores. Southwest Plaza, stop by today and explore.
You try to rest, roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers, for window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it, just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 301.
Maybe it's time to explore your options. There's no harm in reviewing your mortgage arrangement and considering a better deal. CIBC Caribbean can help you narrow your search and decide. Switch your mortgage to CIBC Caribbean and enjoy a special interest rate and help towards your switching cost. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/inspired home for more information. Conditions apply.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way.
We are back with Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas, Channel 969, and BTC Flow, Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Deandra Carr is going to be joining us in just a bit. Coming up this morning, we've got a lot to talk about. We are going to be talking about what came out of the Global School Health Report. The Ministry of Health releasing that last week, getting a lot of attention for some of the somewhat surprising findings. Although, yeah, well, we'll talk about how surprising they are, how truly surprising they are, or whether. With a child psychologist this morning. We'll be talking with Dr. Michelle Major about this morning. Later, we'll be talking about climate change and the impact on health and more. That's all ahead on this Monday morning. But let's talk about what else is in the news. And in the news, we talked about this quite a bit last week, and now police have made an arrest. 2 people have been arrested in relation to that grievous harm by negligence following a boating accident that left an American tourist severely injured last week. Our Caitlin Babb writing about it in today's Nassau Guardian. 2 Exuma residents, both 55 years old and 21 years old, were being questioned in connection to the incident that occurred in Tar Bay waters on Tuesday evening. The victim, identified as Brent Slaw of Texas, was on vacation in Exuma with his wife and 2 daughters when he was struck by the propeller foot boat, a Boston whaler. While snorkeling, the boat never stopped, leaving beachgoers and Slaw's family to rush to his rescue. Slaw was transported to a clinic on the back of a truck and kept overnight at the facility with lacerations to his lower body until he was airlifted to the U.S. the following morning. So there's some video that's out. We can see the boat very close to the shore, really very, very close. And so definitely a scary, scary incident there. And we're going to see what comes out of this and whether there will be greater enforcement on these things just this weekend. Saw some, I don't know what type of boats those were, but pretty close to the shore. There were swimmers. Everybody stopped and got up to see because these guys were really close out east. And just really surprised to see these boats just flying by really close to where people were swimming. And it's just it seems very few people are care about this stuff if they're not in the water. If they're on a boat, they'll do the jet ski, they'll do the boat right up on top of you, no matter what, as long as they're having their fun. But what can we do? What are we going to do to get a handle on this? Let's hear from you. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. You can call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. All right, so the big headlines in the National Guardian today and other papers calling it a national emergency. The FNM says it has a plan in response to the alarming teen mental health report issued by last week, and that is going to be what we talk about this morning. So we'll get to what Michael Pintard is saying about this in a bit. There's a whole lot in the papers today, including court news. A man involved in a banking scam gets a conditional discharge story. A security guard who stole $3,000 in a phishing scam granted a conditional discharge on Friday. Valentino Farquharson would avoid spending 6 months in prison if he completes 6 months of probation, 100 hours of community service, and repays the stolen money. At his arraignment before Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley, Farquharson pleaded guilty to stealing and money laundering. Back on April 22nd, Marco Smith received a text saying that his account at CIBC First Caribbean had been placed on hold. He told him that the matter would be resolved by clicking on a link. When he clicked on the link, his account was hacked and $6,500 was transferred to Farquharson, who withdrew $3,000 from the ATM. He was unable to access the rest of the money after the bank placed a hold on the account. So Farquharson's lawyer said that he had fallen in hard times and had used the money to pay outstanding bills. The magistrate said this was no excuse to engage in fraudulent activity and noted that there had been an increase in financial crimes. Nonetheless, the court gave Farquharson a second chance as he had no previous convictions. Yeah. So again, he would avoid spending 6 months in prison if he completes 6 months of probation, 100 hours of community service, and repays the stolen money. Well, let's see how he's going to repay the stolen money. But interesting. Let's get your reaction to all these things, folks. Let's take some calls. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning, caller. You're live on the air. Hi. Good morning.
Hello?
Hi. Yes. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dwight. Dwight, how you doing? Hope you had a wonderful weekend.
It was fine. How about yours?
Yeah, mine's was great also, Dwight. Dwight, but I need to find out the Florida State. The Florida State is they're showing themselves up to be like they're in support of everything with our government them to be doing, man, Dwight.
You think so?
We need to start, I believe, to see a separation in our Florida State fund, because there's a lot of things that just be going on in this country, and I feel like the Florida State really could contribute to more, man, because while there's so much things that we just skipping over, and I believe some journalists, what do you call it, journalists, investigation from our journalists, right? That I believe that really could be more appropriate.
What type of things are you talking about?
Nothing really directly in particular, Dwight. Before I really go on to what you're saying, that's just was.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might need to go into specifics. Like, what do you mean? You just have a feeling?
Let me be specific then. Like, we need them to go in to investigate, like, our family islands and see what's really going on, and not waiting for the politicians to take these trips and then come back and tell them what's going on, and then they just regurgitate that on the what you call it on the media, right?
Like what are you talking about? Like what do you think would, like, what? Give us an example of what you think.
Like,
you're breaking up.
Initial conditions, even some instances, the cultural conditions of our family islands and our there's a lot of secret the governments them getting away, right? Because in my view, right, it's just mine, right? I feel as if the government have these entities them controlled. Right now, Dwight.
Look, I got to stop you there. I have to stop you there, because this is one of these entities, and we're not controlled by the government.
No, wait and past that.
But let me tell you what's going on. The issue is staffing and funding, and that is a major problem.
Well, right? That's acceptable. I can understand that. But Paul, that means maybe we can start to see some more advertisement to try to see if we could get these places them filled. right? But Dwight, when it relates to the FNM, right? The FNM is talking
That's a serious
about...
claim, though. I mean, I can't let you just go like that. I mean,
All right.
So there's always more that can be done by everybody.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
not put this on the Fourth Estate. If people speak, and we need those people to speak, if they are having issues and they reach out to the media, they're not going to be told, "Oh no, I can't talk to you because I'm in the pocket of the government."
Hey,
So
Dwight,
that is not how it
doing
works.
Great, because there's, hello?
Yeah, we're listening.
Yeah, the Florida State is doing great, Dwight. I'm just saying, right? I believe they could do a little bit more, because what if the Florida State was in saying absolutely nothing, then, Dwight? What position we would have been in then? But because I believe they could do more, I believe we could cause our leaders to be more transparent in the things they do because of fear
Well, almost everything you find out now is because of the media. So I don't know if that's fair at all to say. But if you think more can be done, you should join. Come on over.
Come on, job, Lloyd.
Huh?
Come on, job.
Okay. There's a process. Send us your resume. We'll see where we could station you. Caller, good morning. You are on the air.
Good morning.
Hi. Something's going on with your phone. I'm not sure what that is. That us?
Okay.
Is that you?
Can you let me know?
No. You might need to call us back. Call us back. I know if there's something going on with your line. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Toll free 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Dwight. I think you on the entire 96.9.
What's happening? Okay, I don't know. Call us back. 323-6232. 325-425-4316. 325-4259. All right, this texter here. This is, oh boy, what's going on today? The caller is correct. Journalists are under the control, and the owners are not injecting the funding because they're politically tied. My God. 2 years in, and not one journalist thought to investigate and follow up with the money spent during the 50th anniversary. You don't know what you're talking about. People are trying, but do you think it's easy to get information around here? Do you really think by the people you put in power? Yeah, you ask a question and see what response you get. I don't know if you want people to be breaking into offices. Maybe that's what you're thinking investigative journalism is. But let's see how you act. When people come to your house to ask you what happened here and how quickly you turn the reporters away and shut the door in their face. When they call you to ask you, can I speak to your manager? And you tell them, you hang up on them, or you say, I don't know who this is, what you want. For simple, basic things. Imagine if you want to dig any deeper than that. So look in the mirror before you start making these types of claims. Truly. Good morning. Caller, you're on the air.
Morning, Dwight. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I was. People trying to...
No, boy. Yeah, and boy, you ain't taking last now.
I mean, it's these are crazy claims. Crazy claims. And I know where it's coming from, because there's been so many people who were in the field who are now doing something totally different. And that is causing people to question what's really happening. And that is warranted. But to say that everybody who's left is in the pockets of the government or any party, that's not
rough. I kind of agree to a certain extent. The Florida State can push a little more, because when we had like Candia and them out there, man, we used to look forward to huddle around the radio.
They're all still there.
Stuff like that.
They're all still there. All still there. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But just again, when people come to you asking you questions, how willing are you to answer?
Yeah. So I have a real concern, though. I listened to your newscast this morning, and every time I hear when criminals or someone get catched doing something, Dwight, they handing out plea deals like Skittles. I mean, everybody getting off or suspended sentence or something. What happened? Prison too overcrowded, and they ain't want to say? What's going on, Dwight?
Well,
what's going on? It seems as if living a life of crime pays off in this country. The last 5 victims in this country, we could remember what they named? I don't think so. But every time I turn and I hear when criminals do something, he get a plea deal or some short sentence or something. Man, Dwight, we got to fix this thing. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so again, before we get to what the opposition is saying about the Global School Health Report, this caught my eye last week in the. This was in the Tribune. This is this disturbed me. So the headline is Cubans want to stay, but government asking U.S. if it's okay. Not us, it's U.S. Mm-hmm. So apparently, this is what they're saying. Most Cuban healthcare workers in the Bahamas are eager to remain in the country under new contracts directly with the government, according to Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville. But the administration, this is the Davis administration, is still waiting for word from the United States on whether its proposal meets Washington's approval. Huh? Dr. Darville's comments come after revealing last month that the government will sever ties with Cuba's state-run medical recruitment agency and instead offer direct contracts to Cuban healthcare professionals currently working in the Bahamas. Multiple international reports and the U.S. State Department's trafficking in persons assessments have alleged that Cuba uses coercive measures to control its overseas workers, including confiscating passports, restricting movement, subjecting them to surveillance, and threatening reprisals against them or their families if they defect or criticize the program. Nonetheless, Dr. Darville told the Tribune yesterday that whether the Cuban healthcare workers can remain in the Bahamas does not involve the Cuban government. What do you make of that, folks? What do you make of that? That's very interesting. Whether it meets Washington's approval. What do you think? 323-325-4316. 325-4259. Good morning, caller. You're live on the air. Hi, good morning. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. So the article says the shakeup in the Bahamas' Cuban healthcare contracts began after U.S. officials warned that they could revoke visas for Bahamian government officials and their relatives if the country continued to participate in Cuba's labor export program to hire medical workers, an arrangement Washington argued amounted to forced labor. A leaked 2022 contract published by Cuba Archive showed the Bahamas paid up to $12,000 per month per Cuban doctor, while the doctors themselves received just $990 to $1,200. The remaining went to Cuba's state-run agencies, the CSMC. Despite Prime Minister Philip Davis and Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell initially downplaying concerns over the pay structure, the threat of visa sanctions forced the government's hand. Dr. Darville has said the country currently employs 3 Cuban nurses and 3 doctors, along with x-ray technicians, physiotherapists, and biomedical specialists. He said the government is also stepping up efforts to recruit doctors and nurses from other countries, including India, the Philippines, and Ghana, to reduce dependence on any single source of foreign healthcare labor. But again, waiting to see if what they are proposing to do is okay with the U.S. Caller, what say you? Good morning.
Dwight, how are you?
Doing well.
You know, I always congratulate your station for good journalism. Okay, it comes down to reporting, but some stations, other entities need to improve. Just yesterday, not your station, another entity was reporting that there was a hit and run, but it was not a hit and run. A gentleman crashed into a wall. So I'm trying to figure out what reporter, where did they get the information from? You know, and Mr. Reynolds Jones always say reporters still need to do more work and investigation. So when, for instance, if an MP or a politician says something, then they could do their research and they could say, hey, Mr. MP, the central bank said, hey, we have $500 million in debt. How could we have a balanced budget? So I think that type of journalism, we need more person to really go in depth so they can question anybody. Say, hey, last week this what happened. Is a contradiction of what you're saying. So I think we need more work. Your station's doing a better job than the other ones, I can tell you that.
Okay.
But we have to do more. So don't just take word by word what the person says and don't do your research. I think that's what the other person is trying to say to you. But your station, like I say it again, is doing a much better job than the other ones. And the other ones seems as if they're afraid. That's how it is, man. And I just get tired. Sometimes I try to answer them on my TV and say, what are you saying? I know what the answer is. You ain't asked the man that, So they need to do more depth study, So don't come there as if you're just reading from the paper like Randall Jones saying. He's very, very critical about journalism, Mr. Jones. I respect him. So I think all journalists go a little more deeper. When the politician or the pastor, somebody says something, then you already say, hey, pastor, no. I just did the report last week from the central bank, and that is contradiction of what you're saying. Let's do more journalism work to be there to report to the public. But keep up the good work, man.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know how to take that too much, but thank you. Appreciate it. Continue to call in 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. You can call us toll free as well. 242-300-5720. We'll get to your text messages in just a bit. Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
As it pertains to the Cuban and American situation, I mean, the Bahamas wants to tread very carefully because, we depend on them so much in some aspect. And America, they control other people's territory, or dictate to them what they can do from what they cannot do. So that's my take on it.
I mean, that makes sense to you? Okay. I mean, that doesn't answer the... Okay. Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air. 323-6232, 325-4316. I don't know if I would have said it. I don't know if that is what's going on. I don't think I would have said it. This is a weird look. This is I would say even a bad look. It's very bizarre. Very bizarre. I can't understand. I don't understand. Caller would say you. All right, we need some patience, folks. Some patience. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. This texter says here, this story, this story is getting big in the States about the guy who was run over by the boat. Why hasn't the government said anything about that? They're waiting until the Americans are forced to get involved. I mean, I don't know what you want them to say. They've arrested two people who were involved. What more is there to say? Perhaps to further stress the rules to boaters and jet ski operators on how close to the shore they should be riding, and enforce people who are getting too close. Well, that's going to be challenging. We've got a whole lot of beaches to patrol. But what would you want them to do? What would you want them to do? Let's take this call. Good morning. You're on the air. Hi. Good morning. Yes. Good morning. You're live.
Morning, Dwight.
Hi.
How you do?
Doing well.
About the recoupment and the contracts with the Cubans and the American government, right? I'm from what is called the OPM. I just call it the Office of the People's Money because that's how they run it instead of the Office of the Prime Minister. Remember when, what's the name, Anna Nicole was fast-tracked to be a citizen of the Bahamas?
Okay.
And within a month, right? I think the minister did that. Then I think we need to recruit Mia Motley and fast-track her citizenship and bring her in so she could be prime minister of this country because don't seem like who have any integrity and, to deal with no real Bahamian policy of what the Bahamas government position is on dealing with a situation like that, because we're going to be affected. Because if Cuba was giving us health, health care by the doctors and nurses, what are we having to wait for the Americans to approve something for? Because you think they're going to give us such doctor and nurse care for the same sort of price? That's my contribution. What you think of that?
I think you're looking at this in a very odd way. I don't understand. A few would argue with what was being done before was right. These folks were not getting their full salary. That no Bahamian would accept conditions like that. Very few would accept it. But now that it's directly with the individuals, I'm not sure why the U.S. needs to be involved. I'd like to understand. I don't get it, though. Deandra Cartwright is here. Do you understand that? Why do we have to wait? Why do you have to ask the U.S. if it's okay, what we're proposing, to pay them directly?
Well, good morning, first of all. I was listening on my way in, and I'm like, I do not understand what's happening. I suppose... Well, first of all, we just want to make sure we're not in trouble, I guess, with the U.S. government. I think that's the primary purpose of that. Now, whether that impacts necessarily what contractual negotiations can occur is another story, i.e. between the government and the Cuban professionals themselves. But the thing is that if they were engaged to an agency under certain restrictions, maybe let's not use restrictions, on certain conditions, then how do you supersede those particular conditions without impacting the contract that was already in place with that agency, right? And we all know about the situation with Cuba and how they conduct their affairs. When I hear that proposal, I don't truly understand without all the details, because I'm not sure if those professionals can undertake negotiations on their own because of how they would have left their country, because of the restrictions that are in place on their people. Mm-hmm. So then it would put us in a position, or I would suppose it puts us in a position to say that we are possibly interfering with Cuba's internal affairs. It also may put us in the position where we are undermining the program that's in place by Cuba.
Well, in this article, there's no mention of whether Cuba's fine with it. I think that's the only thing that matters.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So we don't have the details. That's what I think that we can't have this conversation unless we have the full picture. And at this point, topically, it's whether the Americans are satisfied or not. And why are we concerned with that? Because they threatened the visa status of government officials. That is right, but I mean, if you really look at it from the surface, that's what it sounds like.
Well, if you're hiring them directly and they're getting their full salary.
No, but how? I have a question. I have a question. When has the government ever gone to Cuba to hire persons directly?
It wasn't a thing before.
It is not a thing. It is not a thing. They are outside of their country on a particular status with a government program.
Right.
They are here, again, under travel conditions issued by their own country and within a certain understanding, within a certain time frame on a certain program. You don't negotiate in that way. Like, it's not the same thing. Now, if you had negotiated with them directly as persons, as individuals previously, then I can understand this. But that did not happen. And I want us to be like we need to be clear about these things. You can't, this is business. You engaged a company that's a government-run entity to secure personnel. Now you were proposing to go and negotiate with the personnel as opposed to the entity. In business, you are undermining and undercutting. You also put those persons inside a peculiar situation because as much as we want to seem like we're doing the right thing by giving them a choice, Where does that leave them?
Right. Well, this is what I'm saying, right? So this is
What if
odd
Cuba
that you're
revokes
hearing
them?
from the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, that it's the U.S. they're waiting to hear from, but no mention of whether Cuba is cool with this.
So my question is, because when I was listening on the way in, and I come from I did work with the Cuban government on behalf of the Bahamas government for a time as well, right? So like when we're talking about asylum seekers, irregular migrants, I think I know a little something about that. What is going to happen when we jeopardize their status with the Cuban government? Because they could be turned into persona non grata very easily. And then does that mean that the Bahamas is then in a position to offer them status in this country?
Right.
And we run away from that all the time. I can give you many examples publicly.
Yeah.
So are we then saying that because now we put on record, it's on record, and it's coming from our government official saying that the Cuban professionals want to stay here? The Cuban government, we all know, watches, hears, listens, they want to know these things, etc., whatnot. Now they're being placed in a peculiar position. Are we prepared to protect them? Are we prepared to provide for them beyond a salary? I just wonder if we actually have a holistic view when we make these public utterances on things like this. This is a complex situation. Yeah. And we're not even engaging with the finer details coming from the country with whom we have the agreement with. And we're not being very transparent, or very blunt rather, as to why we asking the Americans for their permission. Yeah. Like, let's be clear. This is not because of the well-being of the Cuban professionals. That's not why they're asking. They're asking to make sure that we as a country, and particularly the government officials, don't get any sanctions against them for travel restrictions. Come on, man.
That seems to be the only reason. The only reason. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. Okay, we've got a lot of issues on the table, so we've got all these messages are all over the place. This person says here, don't be so dismissive of the fact that many of the owners of media businesses are heavily entrenched in political familiarity, and in some cases borderline incestuous. Can you name a media outlet in the history of our country that has or would choose the sanctity of the fourth estate or the art of the deal, which is the business component? Your station comes close, but you are a business first. Wow. Okay. Well, it's all right, so this is about that. Let's see. This article, this thing, the hit and run. This person says it was a hit and run, but our paper says, National Guardian says, a 54-year-old man died in a car accident in New Providence on Saturday night. Shortly after 11:45 p.m., police responded to a car crash on Shad Street and St. Vincent Road. Police said the car crashed into a building. Police found the victim unresponsive outside the car. Police say it's alleged that the man believed to be the driver got out of the vehicle following the crash, began walking, and was subsequently struck by a vehicle, which did not remain at the scene. So apparently it was. So
I'm not laughing at the tragedy. I'm laughing at the fact that this is so common where you have accidents that happen because of folks who don't care and they just simply drive off.
Yeah. So it was a hit and run. It was a hit and run to the caller who said that.
I have a question. Do we have CCTV in that area? I'll wait.
I don't know. I'm a Long Islander, and this is a text. The MP for the island raised claims for the airport deal, medical crisis, and a morgue that is sitting outside in the elements deteriorating. However, not heard from the media in verifying such claims. However, I have seen the media announce the airport deal presented by the government. The previous callers are right, but have failed in pushing further and asking important questions and verifying the legitimacy of such a deal. It seems as if most media houses simply regurgitate what is told to them, and they said sold to them, but they could have meant sold or told. But anyway, if tough questions are asked and go unanswered, then report it as such. This will allow the people to see what type of leaders we have voted for. Totally agree with you on that part there. That's an interesting text. Thank you very much for that one. Let's see. I'll try to save this and send this to some folks so they can do some more investigating.
Somebody asked me about that airport deal, right? And I was like, in my lifetime, you know how many times I hear about this airport supposed to happen on Long Island? In my lifetime. How many times? So it's almost like a pie in the sky thing. And until I see, because I believe at one point they even broke ground. Where they broke ground, I don't know, because you still got the one room airport. But a runway that's too short, you can't have bigger planes coming.
Wow. This text says, it seems like most journalists in the Bahamas want to be politicians, and they're giving some names as examples. I'm not going to read the names, but wow. All right, so this is Bash Journalists Today. This one says, is it possible for you to invite a representative from the police force fire branch to explain why almost after a month there is still smoldering smoke on Adelaide Road and Frank Watson Highway? It's an absolute health risk first and foremost. And community inquiries to the Ministry of National Security, the Police Commissioner, and Environmental Health. We are working on that, absolutely. This person says, hey, why not cancel the independence celebrations until the U.S. gives the okay?
That's cute. That's so cute. That is so cute. That is so, wow. How dare you?
Is it cute or petty?
How dare you? How dare you say we must stop our independence partying just to get permission from from another country?
Clear it first. Wow. That's deep. It's deep. Okay. This is the same. Isn't this the same arrangement that we have with China and their workers? It's a little different with China. The scale is they're working on projects specifically, and it's their project, and they bring in their workers to work on their projects.
Right.
This is very
different. That was also
different.
the term of the agreement.
Yeah, and you signed that agreement. It's a bit different, but you may not agree with me on this one. Yes, we have a very weak fourth estate. The worst part is if the world. What? Thank God Trump is. I don't understand what that part where they're going with that. I'm not understanding
What's going
on. We need Guardian Radio to investigate the wardrobe malfunction downtown at the House of Assembly. Mismatched colors in the flags, not a good look. Okay. I don't know if it's a wardrobe malfunction, but okay. Maybe
That's
some of the
an
flags are
interesting way to
are
describe it.
faded. Maybe maybe they retired and had to be brought back. Hi.
I mean, it's a cost-saving measure, man. Trying to save money this time around with the independence celebrations. Maybe we'll actually get a report on what people spent.
Probably costs more to maintain the old flags. Just over the weekend, the U.S. rejected the Cuban national volleyball team entry into the U.S. to play in the premier tournament. Let me explain to you what's going on. Okay, here we go.
Okay, great. Yes, please do.
For the Cuban doctors, the Cuban medical workers, under the last Donald Trump administration, he accused Cuba of funding terrorism. The Bahamas government now knows that the money that goes to those doctors' salary, it goes to the government. So they always knew that. They always knew that. In other words, the Bahamas is indirectly funding terrorism in the Americans' eyes. Cubans are okay. I want to send this is a random day. Send out a shout out to Bahamas immigration for beefing up their raids on hunting down immigrants. Kudos to Bahamas immigration.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't. Oh my gosh. Okay.
This person says, hey, that texter is right about the morgue in Long Island. A technician told me they inspected a couple years ago, and it's outside because they refused to chip off 3 inches of head above the door to put the new one in and take out the old one. That is the problem. I guess they're waiting for some tens of thousands of dollar contract to be awarded to a colony just to chip off the head of the door to get the new one in. That's crazy. This person says here, Nelson Mandela said it very well when his country needed help. The West did not even meet with him. The only country that helped was Cuba. Now the West wanted him to vote against Cuba. He said, being a man of principle, he refused to vote against Cuba. What Cuba does in their country is their business. Well, it's not their country though. It's what's happening here, and so that's a concern. But if you arrange with the Cuban government to sort this out and make sure it's okay, then I think that should, in theory, solve any of the concerns that other folks might have had. No? I don't know.
Again, lots of unknowns, Dwight.
Yeah, lots of unknowns. What would you have done if you were the minister and you were asked a question like, hey, what's going on with the Cuban doctors and the Cuban professionals? What would you have said if you were the Minister of Health?
First of all, I need to be in possession of all the details. So,
But if they ask you, say, hey, since the Americans said what they said and you all said that you're only going to deal with the professionals directly, what's happening right now? Bam, mic in your face. 10 seconds.
I got
Dr.
you.
Cartwright, come on, we've got to go to the news.
I must consult those that are dealing with the negotiations in order to better brief you. I'll get back to you.
All right. We're going to the news. We'll pick all of this up afterwards. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Yes, man.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. And now at 8:20, it's time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paints. Here's what's happening. We have a broad Atlantic surface ridge that is returning us to a summertime pattern, the typical summertime pattern, with showers in the afternoon, thunderstorms likely, and very warm temperatures. Meanwhile, a weak surface trough just east of the islands may support some spotty showers and cloudy intervals over portions of the country. So that surface trough and an associated mid to upper level disturbance will move into the area by Tuesday. And this is going to increase cloudiness across the country while elevating shower and thunderstorm chances through the middle of the work week. For now, we are looking at UV and heat indices in the extreme range. Everyone's being advised to limit outdoor hydrated and wear protective light-colored clothing. There remains a moderate risk of rip currents for Atlantic exposed coastal waters as well as the south coastal waters in the northern Bahamas. Beachgoers urged to exercise caution as well. And we're expecting a thin plume of Saharan dust to move into the central and southeastern islands today, producing some milky, hazy skies. Your forecast for today, for the extreme northern islands, a mix of sun and clouds at first, becoming partly sunny by the afternoon, mostly fair at night. Partly sunny today For the northwest and southeast Bahamas, becoming mostly fair at night. For the central islands, a mix of sun and clouds as well, becoming partly sunny and a bit hazy by the afternoon, partly cloudy at night. Got a 10 to 20% chance of showers and afternoon thunderstorms for most areas today. High temperatures near 92 Fahrenheit, 33 Celsius, but the heat index will be well into the triple digits. It'll feel like it's 105 Fahrenheit, 41 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 81 Fahrenheit, 20. Outlook for Tuesday, variably cloudy during the day, becoming partly cloudy at night in the northern and northwest Bahamas, partly cloudy to cloudy elsewhere. By Wednesday, most of the country seeing partly cloudy to cloudy conditions, 30 to 50% chance of isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. And Thursday, partly cloudy to cloudy with gradual clearing throughout the day. And by Friday, cloudy to overcast in the northern and northwest Bahamas, a mix of sun and clouds for the central and southeastern islands. The tropics are quiet, the remnants from Chantal moving across the southeastern United States. That's your morning blend weather check, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams. Walls looking a little owl. Swing by Sherwin-Williams for a fresh coat of wow. Best customer service, bold colors, and bargain prices. They've got it all. Sherwin-Williams. Let's roll. Time for a check of your traffic, brought to you by RBC. With RBC, reaching your goals happens here. In real-time traffic, we've got Mile of Other Highway seeing some heavy traffic this morning from well south of the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to Tawny-Williams-Darling Highway. If you're heading northbound, traffic backed up along Tawny-Williams-Darling Highway as well, westbound to that roundabout at this hour. Got a bit of congestion on Blue Hill Road near Soldier Road, just north of the intersection, or the junction there, and East Street as you approach the roundabout with East-West Highway and Independence Drive. Some slow-moving eastbound traffic on Independence Drive at this hour as well. Wolf Road near Marathon Road, you're going to be seeing some around that roundabout. And Bernard Road as well, slow-moving westbound traffic at this hour towards the intersection with Soldier Wolf and Village Roads. Elsewhere, manageable for you this morning, just in the major intersections along Prince Charles Drive. You'll see a few cars ahead of you. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert, brought to you by RBC. With RBC, your ideas happen here.
Get ready for the summer's official rum and beer linker. Royalty Sounds present Found Facts. Found Facts. Saturday, July 5th, March Harbor, Abaco at the Royal Recreational Ground. Gates open 5 p.m., $20 entry. Ladies free before 8 p.m. with Nassau and Abaco's hottest DJ. Don't miss the beer drinkers versus rum drinkers competition.
Right, pulling for the best side, icicle liquor.
Can rum for me. Found Facts, July 5th, Abaco. Sponsored by Collect, the Beer of the Bahamas. Drink responsibly.
Maybe it's time to explore your options. There's no harm in reviewing your mortgage arrangement and considering a better deal. CIBC Caribbean can help you narrow your search and decide. Switch your mortgage to CIBC Caribbean and enjoy a special interest rate and help towards your switching cost. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/inspired home for more information. Conditions apply.
It's time to upgrade the way you enjoy at-home entertainment. Alive Fiber is here. Enjoy all your favorite channels and streaming apps, all at lightning-fast internet speeds with affordable bundles, and it's only a click away. Visit www.alivefiber.com to sign up now. Stay connected, live your life. It's good to be alive.
Are you dreaming of a brighter future? The answer is right beneath your feet. Buying land is a wise investment. You can build a home, hold it as collateral, or pass it on to your children. And with CIBC Caribbean, buying land is a bold move you can make right now. CIBC Caribbean is giving you US $250 towards your valuation cost and 50% off your loan application fee. Visit CIBC Caribbean. Terms and conditions apply.
Sherwin-Williams Bahamas doesn't mess about when it comes to product range and product knowledge.
If it's a new product come in the store, we walk the store and study that product.
One thing with our boss, if a new product comes in, he takes the time and he's always keeping us up to date with product knowledge. And we just had 9 weeks of different products that we had to study, and we had exams at the end of each product.
Yeah.
The only way we could sell the product effective, we have to know that product. Yeah, that helps us to relate to our customers. It gives us better knowledge to know what product to introduce to them. You understand? So we can know what product to give them to use and what product not to give them to use. So product knowledge is really key in Sherwin-Williams.
They got the keys. And the key is the product knowledge that comes with our extensive product range at Sherwin-Williams Paints, Bahamas. Find color in every day.
Wake up, it's a new day.
At Cleveland Clinic, care is everything. So when your primary purpose is to care for the world, you'd start with your community until you're accessible anywhere. You make complexities your specialties and put compassion before anything else, all to redefine what's possible. For everyone, everywhere. For every care in the world. Cleveland Clinic.
Fly away with me through the Bahama Keys.
Tired of the hustle and bustle of Nassau? Fly away to the Family Islands with our fly-free offer for Bahamian residents. Stay at any of our hotels for 2 nights and get a round-trip ticket for free. Visit BahamasResidence.com for details.
My Bahama land, yes, my country. Come fly away with me.
As a healthcare professional, you dedicate your life to caring for others. But even with the best care, legal challenges can arise. Protect your practice and your peace of mind with medical malpractice insurance from Star General. At Star General, we've partnered with Lloyd's of London to bring you comprehensive professional liability insurance designed specifically for those consulting or practicing privately. Visit our website today so you can focus on what you do best, caring for your patients, while we take care of the rest. Star General, insurance made simple.
In the world of business, technology is not a choice, it's a necessity. And for businesses that demand excellence, there's only one choice for unparalleled support and cutting-edge technology. Custom Computers. You have challenges and we have solutions. Computing, networking, storage, and printing for enterprises large and small, aligned with premium brands like HP, Microsoft, Konica Minolta, and more. Get tech done the right way with Custom Computers. Call the know-how team at 396-1101.
With RBC, your idea of loving every journey happens now. Free up cash with affordable auto financing from RBC. With competitive rates and no bank fees, it's the perfect time to make every journey something special. Apply now to pre-qualify in 60 seconds at rbc.com/auto loan to shop with confidence. Conditions apply. RBC, your idea of loving your journey happens here.
In the city there is too much strife. That's why
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Deandra Cartwright.
What a second.
Almost said another D name on this Monday morning. And we have a lot to talk about this morning. Coming up in just a couple, literally 2 minutes, you're going to be talking about well, alarming is being said, but I don't know if it's alarming. The trends that were outlined in the Ministry of Health's Global School Health Report. And we're going to get into that with a child psychologist this morning. But you wanted to say one thing before we get into that, Deandra.
Yes, please. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we would have remembered the tragedy happening last week with the Dorset family out in Coral Heights. Their entire home was destroyed in a fire. They're having fundraising efforts to try and replace their entire life. Their home was standing for 25 years. They are members of St. Agnes Church and very involved in the musical community, actually. So they have a GoFundMe page. So just please search it up and donate what you can. Dorset Family Fire Relief. That's on GoFundMe. You can also donate directly to Janet Dorset's bank account. That's JANNETTE Dorset. That's without the E. That's Royal Bank of Canada, Lifer Key Branch 055. The account number is 7591001. St. Agnes Church is also having a fundraiser for the family. That's going to happen on Friday the 18th of July, 7 p.m. at St. John's. Tickets are $20, and the offering is also going to be taken up to donate to the family. So please support the Dorsets. They've lost everything.
It's a real tragedy there. Okay. So we heard about this last week. The Ministry of Health releasing the findings of the Global School Health Report 2025. Some of the headlines definitely startling. 1 in 5 teens attempted suicide. 1 in 4 contemplated it. Alcohol use, we're being told, at crisis levels. Teens being the access to alcohol easier than ever, it seems. And obesity rates, and so many things coming out in this report. In today's Nassau Guardian, the big headline, this is a national emergency. Michael Pintard outlining what his administration, if he were to become prime minister, what they would do in response to something like this. And it definitely has a lot of people talking. And we're very pleased to have back with us, it's been a while, child psychologist Dr. Michelle Major. It's been a while, but it's always good to see you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
I asked you this off air if you were surprised by any of the findings.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have been calling out in our field in relation to this for many, many years. And so I'm very happy in some ways that, we're looking at this and we're acknowledging that this is an issue in our country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does it seem to be a growing issue, or is it as bad as it's always been in your eyes?
That's difficult to say. We want to really acknowledge the fact that we don't have the data to look at the past, but, just looking at it from a perspective of being in the field, I would say that we have a growing issue that is going on. Mm-hmm. And it's really in part because our youth are different than the youth in the past, mm-hmm. right? They're exposed to different things. Their brains are very different. And so we have to acknowledge that as well. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. But we also have to step up to the plate and acknowledge that and recognize the needs that our kids have.
Yeah. Is there any particular part of this that jumped out at you, though, that you're like, I wish more people were paying attention to this? Maybe the alcohol use, maybe the suicide. What would you say?
I would actually say that the thing that stood out the most to me, that made me most proud and really was head on, was when Dr. Moxie in the Nassau Guardian article said that, many of the kids are struggling in silence, feeling unseen, unheard, and unsupported. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest message in this. I think that we tend to see children and say, well, if a child is suicidal or has suicidal thoughts, they must be experiencing a lifestyle of severe abuse, whether that's sexual, physical, emotional. And I think we need to recognize that what we have is an epidemic of emotional neglect in our country. And this is much milder because it comes from a history of generational neglect, and it also comes. Okay, so when there's no intention to harm our children, but we are not there emotionally for our kids, and so this is, to me, one of the root causes that needs to be discussed, because we're not raised in a country where we can talk about our emotions, where our parents are connected to children in a way that children feel safe to communicate what's going on in their lives, without judgment, without being dismissed, without being corrected, without, feeling judged. And so I think we need to acknowledge this. And this goes to the root of every parent, so that parents aren't just putting it aside, well, that's not my child. My child has good grades, they must be okay, right? My child is good at sports, they must be fine, right? And so we're ignoring that this is a silent, very silent, issue, that all parents need to have self-reflection in the way that their emotional intelligence is being passed down to their children.
You said a lot just now. So there might not be physical abuse in this, and that the child can still be feeling this way.
Absolutely, 100%. Actually, the majority of cases that I see are not your traditional classic, what you would hear, I've been abused.
Right.
Classically abused. Now, are there many children like that in our country? Absolutely. So I'm not minimizing that. Yes.
Yeah.
But, I don't want us to dismiss, the children that are struggling because we are not there for them.
Yeah. So let's explore that a little more. Generational neglect. I mean, that's terrifying. Explain what you mean by that some more.
Yeah, so think about it. Any unwanted behavior comes from unwanted needs. Okay, and so I we need to recognize that the dynamics of being a parent it's the parent's job. It's a power dynamic as well. The parent's job is to teach a child, right? Teach a child how to self-regulate, how to deal with conflicts, how to process emotions. But unfortunately, many of us don't have those skills because they were not passed down to us.
Wow.
Right? And so the way in which we deal with emotions, unfortunately, in many ways, again, not intentional, is to dismiss it. Okay? We might spiritually bypass it, like just pray on it. We may use toxic positivity, like, just be grateful for what you have. Wow. So just these statements alone are dismissive to a child's emotions, what they're going through, and it doesn't teach them how to process those feelings. And the three big emotions that are very dangerous are fear, anger, and sadness. And so when a child doesn't have a safe place to process those without judgment, without criticism, without a parent taking it personally that they're doing something wrong, okay, then that child has no outlet to process those emotions.
All right, so I said this on the show last week, that this shouldn't be surprising because these behaviors were being seen from when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. And I guess by what you're saying, it shows that we've been dealing with these types of issues for a long time.
Absolutely.
But you did mention that today's kids are very different from the kids from 10, 20, 30 years ago. Let's explain that part and what role that's playing.
Yeah,
I guess technology is a factor in this.
So it's very different to say, I don't know how to deal with emotions because I don't even know about emotions, versus I'm learning about emotions, even as early as childhood TV shows now are really talking about emotions. They're talking about anger. They're talking about sadness. They're talking about feelings in TV shows. And so we didn't, even your generation and mine, we didn't have even satellite TV until we were teenagers. Right. And that was only some of us. So the reality is children are more now exposed to a stimulated part of themselves that is critical, which is great, that they understand that emotions matter, that their feelings matter, that they need to be seen, that they should have a voice. And so this has never been considered an option in the past due to lack of exposure. But now with social media, with everything that's out there, we're now seeing much more where the child is more emotionally mature than some of the parents because they are engaging in better conversations with their peers about their feelings, their emotions, what's going on in their home, relationship issues. They're having conversations that generations in the past never really had before. But then when they're looking for the guidance, to looking upwards to those parents, teachers, to give them support through that, it's not there because those parents don't have those skills or they're not using those skills because their parenting style just doesn't allow it. I mean, think about it. We also live in a society, in a world where talking about your emotions, crying, having emotional reactions are considered either weak or, inappropriate. And so we learn strategies to just keep it all inside or, not to show them to our children or to show them inappropriately. We just don't have the skills to teach our children to self-regulate. And if you have an unself-regulated parent or teacher cannot have a self-regulated child in the classroom or at home. You can't expect the child to be more self-regulated than you.
Wow. And how does that manifest itself? I mean, I guess it's in what we're talking about now, but what have you seen specifically? What happens there? Do you become depressed? Do you become...
Yeah, let's not even go there. Let's just talk about how we're dismissive, right? Let's just talk about how a child may come to you and say, somebody's teasing me at school, right? What would have been some of the comments that people are kind of used to hearing, all right? Just ignore the behavior. Oh, just spiritual bypass. Let's just pray for Molly, or
go fight that kid.
Oh, go fight that kid. So all survival techniques, or let's just dismiss it, and so we're not acknowledging how does that make you feel, right? How is this impacting you, right? It doesn't mean that the child won't get to the same result, meaning like, maybe I will pray for Molly. I'm just, but they have to be guided through connecting with their emotions, feeling their emotions, knowing and being aware of their emotions is critical to being able to process emotions. So if we're not talking about emotions, if we're not pinpointing which emotions are being felt and how to work through them, then they're not going to be processed.
Yeah.
And it results in what we see. And then in addition to that, then children develop what we call wounds, like think about a cut, a wound, of feeling invisible, like nobody really sees me, okay, feeling unheard, and so that is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And therefore, when you see in the article them saying that children are saying they feel lonely, a lot of people are going to say, let's blame media. They're on their iPads too much. Sure, but let's get to the root of this. In the end, the only way to fix this is for us to acknowledge that we're not there for our children in a connected, emotional way, that we need to be to help them to process emotions.
Yeah, it's the parent handing the kid the iPad. Go and deal with this and be quiet over there in the corner, right? As opposed to engaging them.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. The study also talked about alcohol use and drugs. Some real surprising stats, including cocaine use. It sounds like the 80s all over again. What do you say to that?
I think all of it is just a form of self-medication, right? The reality is that even for adults running on a Friday night for, happy hour, is we want to disconnect. We want to disconnect from our emotions, our stressors, our frustrations, and we want to feel better. And so this is normal, right? We're going to find substances, whatever they may be, behaviors that are going to allow me to self-medicate the emotions and feelings that I have. So I don't have to feel anxious right now. I don't have to feel sad right now. I don't have to feel angry right now. And I can, feel good for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's no surprise. It's been always the case. And so it's just we're seeing how young it happens, right?
Is that similar with food and obesity?
Absolutely.
Same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, food is there to soothe us, right? We have our cravings when we're stressed. There's specific foods that feel good to us. Mine is crack honk as soon as I'm stressed out, right? So the reality is food is there. Food, it does something else too. It protects us. It feels soothing, as though a mother is hugging us. It's a form of protection. And so is body fat. You know, body fat is a form of protection, and is specifically for girls. You know, in a country where we are harassed continuously from childhood by men on the streets, you know, catcalling us, these are ways that women feel unsafe from childhood, right? And so some women will actually say, I don't want to lose weight because I don't want to be that attractive. A part of me, a part of them, of course, does, because it's a form of protection. And so there's a lot of root causes to obesity.
I've never heard this word. DeAndre, you're nodding.
Oh, no, I am nodding. I know a little something about that personally, actually. So the average Bahamian woman, and I would say this is, of course, not factually based, but anecdotal, of course, would tell you that they get attention on the regular, but they get even more once the body shape comes in and whatnot. So when they have the mental kicking in to be like, oh goodness, so if I lose more weight to even look more attractive to the male gaze, that means I'm going to be getting more attention. I don't want the attention. Because in most cases, it's unwanted attention.
Yeah.
This is deep.
Yeah.
And you said something very powerful about this happening with our young girls. That's a reality. That is a reality. And then the converse is true too, where eating disorders and things also exist, and at a higher rate, I would average to say, according to the little people in my life that I know of, like these things are happening more and more.
Yeah, and then we get into health issues. So we now know there's a link to repressed anger and breast cancer. You know, so the reality is our emotions impact our body, right? Our health, our physical health, And so there's a lot of connections here and why we need to focus on understanding our emotional needs, healing our wounds, being able to, function in society where we're more regulated, that we know how to, move through conflict. Yeah.
Wow. We were talking with Dr. Michelle Major with the Caribbean Center for Child Development, getting her reactions as a child psychologist to the Ministry of Health's Global School Health Report 2025. We've got some text messages coming in. We'll get to those in a bit. But the study presented you're not hearing much about potential solutions. What do you think what do we need to do? What's the first step we need to take here, and in the short term, medium term, and long term to deal with these issues?
So I think they're already on the right track with the recommendations that there needs to be a better understanding of the issue, better understanding of the supports needed for mental health, which, as a cultural, the ideology we have around mental health has to change. But I think we need to take it even a step further, right? I think I've been a big advocate, even from an educational level, to have social emotional curriculums in our school, from preschool, that, if our parents and teachers can't teach it, then a curriculum can teach us about emotions, right? So that at least we're preparing our children to be able to have the skill sets that maybe we cannot pass down to them, right? There are ways to teach it to them, even if we can't do it for them and model it in the best way. So there's a lot of different ways that we can tackle this so that we start to have a much healthier, mentally healthy, which also translates to physically healthy individuals in our future, in our country.
Yeah. So as I was saying on Friday, a lot of folks were dealing with this when they were young, and they have not talked to their children about what happened to me, and don't let this happen to you, or how we can prevent this from happening to you. They're just expecting the kids to grow up organically. I don't know how.
But I think they felt like they grew up just fine. And maybe they're a little bit better than their parents, and their parents were a little bit better than the parents before. But it's not catching up. It's not evolving at a rate that needs to. It's not quick enough. And so it's really hard, like I said, to recognize what you're lacking in providing to your children when we're kind of socialized to believe, as long as I give you a roof over your head, I pay for your school fees, you're doing well, you got food on your table, what do you have to complain about? If, getting out of that mindset and recognizing that we have to be able to function and connect with our children differently. But many of parents don't even know how to do that. They don't know that they're lacking that. They don't even know how to go about it. Because how can you connect with your children if you're not even connected with yourself emotionally? If you don't know how to deal with your own emotions, your own needs. And so that, becomes very difficult because parents, even who may want to, don't know how to. Yeah. And you can't have a healed child without a healed parent.
All right, so I'm going to open the phone lines in a bit, but you know what a lot of people are probably thinking right now. All this talk about emotions will create a bunch of soft kids who aren't going to be tough enough to handle the real world when they get out there. What do you say to folks who are thinking you got to power through this and the best it'll be the survival of the fittest? And if you couldn't make it, well, you just weren't meant to be in the real world. What do you say to that?
I'm saying we're not animals, we're humans. And in reality, those statements are just built-in shame. Shame of having emotions, shames of expressing emotions. When you've been bottling it up inside or not connecting with yourself, you can't even imagine what that actually feels like, right? And so, how can you, comment on something that you've never really processed appropriately? People are scared. I've had adult clients that they've never cried, ever, and have had severe abuse. They've just never even shed a tear, and so it's pretty amazing. We're not expressive of our emotions. We're not going home and telling our kids every day that we love them and how grateful we are that they are our children and that we are so lucky to have them. We don't do that on a daily basis.
Or ever.
Or ever.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so just because it's alien to us, we think that it's our norm is normal, and we don't understand that there are better ways that we can support. And studies like this tell us we need to have a little bit of self-reflection and some self-compassion. It's not your fault, that you are the way that you are, but it also is up to you to make that change and choose to make the change.
Wow. We were talking with Dr. Michelle Major from the Caribbean Center for Child Development. You can call us 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Oh, boy. Okay, we've got some text messages in. Okay. Dear God. Okay. A few of our texters probably should seek your assistance in terms of therapy, I swear. Dwight, catcalling may be unpleasant, but it falls under free speech. Some women need to accept that not everything said in public will be to their liking. Men have to deal with this too. In fact, a 2021 YouGov poll found that 31% of men have experienced unwanted sexual comments as well.
I feel like y'all, whoever texted that, y'all just dug that statistic up to suit your narrative. But anyway.
But did they feel threatened? As many women will say, they actually feel threatened. They didn't like the comment, but did they feel threatened?
The thing is that the average Bahamian man doesn't actually fully appreciate what a woman goes through walking in public or moving about in public, because it doesn't occur to them that they are or could be in danger as men. Whereas a woman has to think about that from the moment that she unlocks her front door.
And I think we have to recognize something that, I hear this a lot, and this is just a side note. I hear this a lot. Well, Dr. Major, this is the way I am, so I ain't changing. They got to adapt to me. That's just the way it is. If something creates harm to oneself or others, then it's not okay under any circumstances. It needs to change. Mm-hmm. It's a civil right to be able to feel safe within one's skin and one's environment. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a child, a woman, or a man, at any age, to violate my space, to make me feel scared or unsafe, is not okay under any circumstances. We don't just say that's okay because it's been happening. It has happened, or it's happened to you, and you survived, whatever that means. Okay? That's part of the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight.
Hi.
Dr. Major?
Yes.
Yeah. I called into the show on the weekend. They were talking about what is the most serious crime committed in the Bahamas, and I said crimes against children seems to be the most serious that you could ever commit on this planet, because I see what happens to a child when you don't give them enough sleep, enough love, the right nutrition, and of course the proper exercise, and I mean exercising of their mind. But I'm asking you, Doc, have you had any experience in sleep therapy with your children, having them have programmed dreams on the path that they would like to go in the future? Like if I decide to be a technician in some area, the methodology to dreaming about that and actually doing that in your sleep, have you seen that that's been helpful?
So, I mean, working with your future self in different ways that you can do that, one through sleep or other strategies, is, one strategy that's out there. However, when we're looking at our future self, we also have to look at how we feel within our future self. Do we want to feel calm, relaxed, stable? And that we fail to kind of look at that and recognize where those root causes to those feelings come from. And we have to sometimes look towards our present and our past in order to heal that for our future self that we want to create.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking at my future self where I'm living in a country where I'm carrying a national debt, first individually of $28,000 per person, and that's continued to grow. That's affecting me. How do I deal with the emotions that come with that?
Well, that one you might just have to accept, right? I don't know. This texture says here, I personally have a problem with therapists. Huh? What now? I'm a 90s kid, and we sometimes had horrible parents, but we still respected and loved them. This new generation of kids will shoot you in the face for a tablet. So which parenting is better or was better? They give you what you want, or they give you what you need parents. Back in the day, they may have called it abuse, but we turned out okay. Spare the rod, destroy the child. It's lazy to not teach your children right from wrong.
So herein lies an issue that we have, which is very much a lot of what we call black and white thinking, all or nothing, right? It's either this or that. It's either I beat my child or I let them get away with everything. It's either, I just let my child have all these emotions and have no boundaries. And so we need to get away from this black and white thinking and start to understand the gray a lot more. Yeah. And the gray is where we need to be at. There is no, in the past we did it better. All of it is an evolution of learning, of transformation and change. And so we have to recognize and acknowledge that education makes a difference. Mm-hmm. We have to acknowledge that knowledge makes a difference, that studies like this allow us to step up to the plate and see what's really happening when we didn't have those studies in the past.
Yeah.
Right?
Plus, this is just factually incorrect. Yeah. I mean, we've got a whole lot of wonderful kids today and a whole lot of horrible kids back in the day as well. People who were serial killers, people who killed their whole families. I mean, come on now. Yeah. We've always had issues, and we always will. To say it's more now than before is very hard to prove that. But I guess social media makes you think, especially with all the videos, that everything is like this and this is everyone. But that's not necessarily the case. But if you have because of this, you have an issue with therapists, then I think you might actually need to see one. But anyway, that's just me saying that. Okay, this person says here, by the way, girls aren't getting fat to be unattractive. It's actually completely opposite nowadays because fat's in style.
Again, not an all or nothing. We're not saying everybody who's, overweight is protecting themselves.
Oh, boy. Okay. This texter says, I can understand men being blamed for pregnancy, but now being blamed for gluttony? What's next?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be rough. This texter says, it's great to hear perspectives from Dr. Major, but please ask whether whether psychologists, psychiatrists, and therapists were involved in the research. Likely not as many healthcare professionals heard this report with the rest of the public. But again, this was a survey of children.
Yeah,
so
and I was not involved in the study, so I do not know.
Yeah, well, what's your point, though? They're asking the teens what they're going through, how they feel.
It's just a question.
Yeah. So what do they need to be involved with or for? They go on to say you can't address the root of these issues until they speak to the people on the ground who have to see these kids and hear their stories on a daily basis. Okay, I don't know about that. But anyway, Dr. Major is one of those people, and she's telling you this is what she sees.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Okay. Get a couple more of your messages in. You can call as well. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. This text says here, learning how to live is not this hard. Do any of you have children? What's that got to do with anything? Dr. Major, you have
yes, I
a
do.
wonderful son.
Teenager.
Yeah. Well, what's your point? See, this is the problem.
Yeah.
These people are why the kids are, because they're driving adults bonkers as well. I'm not surprised that their children are having these problems, but that's not the type of talk you want to hear. Okay, so what else? We've got a lot of skeptics, a lot of people who are not buying this, disbelievers.
Because it's kind of scary too, because what we're really saying is it's time to self-reflect. And who likes to self-reflect, right? We don't, we're sensitive to criticism from others. We're sensitive to feeling like we're unworthy, that we're not doing good enough. And so, the need to self-reflect, to tune into ourselves, to see what we need to improve and grow at, this is a difficult task. This is why therapists exist, because we have to support people a lot of times through that, because it isn't easy to do, right? Some people are forced to go to therapy in relationships and spouses and, and so forth, because, it's not something easy to say, let me look at myself. Let me look at what, the areas I need to improve in. What are my needs? What are my desires? Who do I want to become? How do I want to feel? How connected do I want to be in relationships? And Harvard just came out with a study that's very, very evidence-based that says that the number one route to us being, quote unquote, happy is having healthy relationships. That's relationships with our parents, our children, our partners in life, right? And so do we know how to do that? Do we know how to communicate? Do we know how to, really listen to understand, listen to respond? So these are all skills that also we have to have self-compassion that we may not have because they were never taught to us, right? And so that requires us to have that skill to be self-compassionate to ourselves, to say, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. I wonder how many people, after hearing about this last week or reading it, instead of criticizing the Ministry of Health or the study or the politicians, instead of doing that, went and talked to the teens, the kids in their life, and asked them, hey, have you ever, or do you, any of those things? I wonder how much of that happened.
Yeah.
Your final words of advice, Dr. Major, on this Monday morning.
Well, I think what's really important is that we recognize again that unwanted behaviors means that an individual has unwanted needs. And we have to reflect on our behaviors, whether we're yelling, whether we're stonewalling, ignoring people, whether we're defensive. What are the root causes of those emotions? What are our needs? What are our desires? And working towards us being better parents, better teachers, and healing ourselves so that we can heal our kids. And that's a critical role. And that is something that requires a lot of bravery. Self.
And if you are a parent and you did talk to your children and they did hint or tell you outright that they're having these issues, what would you recommend?
I would seek out support if they feel like they can't handle it. Be sure to not spiritual bypass or engage in behaviors that are dismissive, and really be there and listen and care without judgment, without criticism, and without trying to fix it in a way that is saying, okay, I did my job, now let's just move on. You know, and and check in with your kids and make this an everyday behavior. Yeah. You and your children need to connect every single day on an emotional level.
Absolutely. Dr. Michelle Major, thank you so much for being here this morning again.
Always.
The
Thank
Caribbean
you so
Center
much
for Child Psychology, Child Development. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have you on again very soon. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a break for news and be back with a whole lot more. Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Lose our culture, then we lose our country. So let us not forget the example that was set. We all must strive to keep the Bible alive. Hey, na, 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 keep the Bible alive. Keep the Bible alive.
Get ready for the summer's official rum and beer lingo. Royalty Sounds present Found Fast. Found Fast. Saturday, July 5th, Morris Harbor, Abaco at the Royal Recreational Ground. Gates open 5 p.m., $20 entry. Ladies free before 8 p.m. with Nassau and Abaco's hottest DJ. Don't miss the beer drinkers versus rum drinkers competition.
Right, pulling for the best side, icicle liquor.
Can rum for me. Found Fast, July 5th, Abaco. Sponsored by Collect, the Beer of the Bahamas. Drink responsibly.
Planning for retirement can be overwhelming, but with CFAL, it doesn't have to be. We offer tailor-made individual, group, and pension solutions that take the guesswork out of retirement planning. Whether it's for you or your company, don't leave your future to chance and let the trusted hands of CFAL's experts guide you toward peace of mind and financial stability. Low upfront costs and affordable monthly payments make it easy for you to build wealth so you can live well. Visit us at cfal.com to start on your path toward financial freedom. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning, and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Monday, July 7th, 2025. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Deandra Cartwright, and this morning we are talking about climate change and your health, the impact this can have on your health. We are very pleased to welcome from the Department of Public Health, Climate Change and Health Specialist, Chandra Mackey, and from the Department of Meteorology, Meteorologist Watson Ramick. Great to have you with us. Good morning.
It's good to be here. Good morning.
All right, so we were talking about a lot of interesting things off air. We're going to try to bring that on air for folks. But we know this has been a hot summer, a hot spring. We've been having heat indices in the triple digits for many weeks now, and it's just the beginning of July. But this can have serious consequences for your health. We want to talk about that and some of the other things that impact your health when it comes to climate. But let's begin with the heat. We've got a heat advisory today warning people that you've got to stay hydrated, limit outdoor activities. What can happen if you don't pay attention to this stuff?
All right. So,
Chandra, you want to start?
Yeah. So just bringing awareness to what the heat can do to a person's health and bringing awareness to the special groups of people that are most susceptible. Let's start with children. We know that usually, and they hope to be outside for most parts of the day, to make sure that their children aren't outside for extended periods of time when the sun is at its peak, because they're going to dehydrate faster, and most of them don't have the skills to let you know that I'm dehydrated.
You wonder about that. Do kids feel the heat the way we do?
Sometimes they feel it worse.
Yeah.
And they're not aware of, oh, no, maybe I should go inside. Oh, no, maybe I should go drink some water. Their first priority is playing and enjoying and having fun. So their guardians have to be the people that say, hey, come inside for about an hour, drink some water, eat some fruit, whatever it is that can help them cool their body down before they just continually go. Because we do have instances of kids where they're passing out or they're getting heat cramps and the likes, and they just think it's because they're playing so much. No, it's because of how the heat is impacting their play.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty scary. So the sun, the heat there. How long? What's the worst part of the day for this? What's the most dangerous part of the day?
10 to 1.
10 to 1.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people like to think that it's just noon when the sun's at its highest peak, but as it goes up, as it comes back down, 10 to 1.
And then we've been getting UV warnings as well and the extreme range. Let's talk about that and the impact that can have.
So for the UV rays, we like to tell people to make sure that, yes, Black people wear sunscreen, please. Just because you're melanated does not mean the UV rays will bounce off of your skin. Right. You will absorb UV rays, and that can lead to things like radiation poisoning. Not a good feeling. Not a good go.
What are some of the symptoms?
So it usually looks like excessive sweating, stomach cramps and aches, and that can lead you to all sorts of medications to try to pull that radiation out of your body.
So is this normal, the heat indices in the triple digits for the Bahamas, or are we noticing it getting worse, Jabari?
I will say this. Good morning again to everyone. It is summer. It is hot. And we do anticipate these high heat indices, more or less, to persist in the summer. However, when it comes to excessive heat, there are certain thresholds that we kind of look at in determining whether or not we need to warn the public for their health. We usually put in for our special weather notes that we do expect heat indices to range up to date. Just let's just say for today, for example, just looking at the humidity values, they're pretty high. That as well as your high temperatures during the day would contribute to triple-digit heat indices. Right. So we're expecting about probably something peaking to 102 to 103 today for New Providence and across the island chain. Now, the difference between just putting that warning into our special weather statement versus going into all-out heat health bulletin that we would issue in partnership with the Ministry of Health and Wellness is if we expect these conditions to continue for a prolonged period of time. Right. So you know that we've had some cloudy days, we've had some rainy days, and then they're broken up by, let's just say yesterday and today, where we have pretty much ample sunshine. Then we're going to have another set of cloudy days coming in. So we have not really reached the whole heat warning status yet, but we still would like to make sure that our public is well aware and well versed of the fact that, hey, it is hot. Yeah. And for the Bahamas, I know the question was asking about our kids. I would say this. I mean, growing up when I was younger, I don't remember feeling heat like this. Yeah, no. And it just goes to show. It just goes to show you exactly how the heat pattern has really evolved across the Bahamas just over the past few decades. For right now, when we're looking at heat and more so the average heat per year, over the past decade, 7 out of 10 summers were the hottest on record. So they were subsequently.
Here? Or just
the
in general
world,
for the global?
generally
Okay.
for the
Mhm.
world over. But I'll talk
Mhm.
about the Bahamas
Yeah.
here. But generally speaking, so it is getting hotter. That it isn't a myth. It's a fact. Climate change is something that is pretty much should be a household term by now.
Yeah.
Because it affects all aspects of our lives at this point. For the Bahamas, I could say, and the Caribbean as a whole, for 2023 and 2024, the Caribbean Forum, they as well as the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, both of them said that 2023 and 2024 were exceptional in terms of the heat waves that were moving through.
Yeah.
And we've recorded those in the Bahamas. Mind you, we are in a maritime area. So most of the heat itself wouldn't be as hot, let's just say, for those landlocked areas or those continental areas, such as in the USA,
Right.
Russia, China, so on and so forth. But we have been getting up there. I think the highest heat index we recorded was in Freeport last year, and that would have been 120, around 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Yes. So on one particular day, but that was one that was quite severe. But yeah, 2023 and 2024 for the region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty interesting, right? Because people think the further north you are, the cooler it should be.
Oh.
But that doesn't, that's not in the summer.
No.
Doesn't mean that.
Listen, mind you, speaking of heat waves in those areas up north, they would be more so associated with what we would call heat domes, where we just have just a built up, stacked high pressure system just over the area and it's not going anywhere. So that coupled with southerly winds, it'll just continue to amp up the heat. And that's what we've seen, I think, about 2 weeks ago across the northeastern U.S. But it's common, like I said, it's more or less common over those landlocked areas, but they're happening with more frequency.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk about some solutions in a bit. We'll get to that in a bit. But there are other factors that we see that are affecting your health. Saharan dust, we are talking about that a lot, especially at this time of year. Now, Shavar, you might know better than me, but I feel like when we were kids, no one ever talked about Saharan dust. Was it always a factor, or are we just realizing how much of a factor it is? What's changed?
I would say that it has always been there, at least Saharan dust intrusions. They more so come in, especially after tropical waves. So usually with a tropical wave, you would have your wet spell and weather, showers, thunderstorms, and whatnot. And then you would have this ridging pattern or this high pressure pattern that would come with some very strong winds. And that strong winds would be blowing just off of the coast of West Africa and taking the dust with it. And the surface going all the way up into the stratosphere.
Wow.
So it could be that deep, and it could be particularly thick. I know for the Bahamas Department of Meteorology, we do make mention of these intrusions especially, and we do take into consideration the health aspect. We know that the World Health Organization has certain thresholds that would consider different particulate matters, particulates more so. The densities would actually have, or the size more so, or the concentrations of those different sizes would contribute differently. So the smaller particulates would actually be a bit more hazardous to your health. Wow. It could get into your bloodstream. It could complicate things.
Yeah.
The larger ones, just broad scale, they could be irritants, but they wouldn't necessarily just come into your bloodstream. So for that reason, smaller particulates, we look at 15 micrograms per, per meter squared, or meter cube, I should say. That would be the minimum threshold. And because the larger particulates wouldn't be getting into your bloodstream, we consider, at least the World Health Organization would say 45.
Wow. So, Chandra, let's talk more about what happens with Saharan dust. What does it do to you? What could it do to you?
So things like Saharan dust lead to what we were talking about off air earlier. It exacerbates things like asthma, allergies, most of your respiratory conditions, COPD, any of those things. It makes you harder to deal with those pre-existing conditions. So like she mentioned, the small particulate matter, to put that in layman's terms, the bigger the particulate matter, the easier it is for your skin barrier, your nose, the hairs in your nose to stop them from coming in.
Okay.
The smaller the particulate matter, they slide through the gate like nothing.
Yeah.
So then they end up in your lungs, in your bloodstream. Most of them are think of like iron kind of metals where your body thinks it's supposed to take this because it looks like something else that it actually needs. But by the time as your body figures out what it actually is, it's well into your system.
So symptoms are going to be itchy eyes, sneezing. Could that be part of it?
Itchy eyes, running nose, sneezing, rough cough, that dry, raspy cough. Like we mentioned, exacerbation of asthma. It can also cause the incidence of asthma. So people that have never had asthma issues before can start having asthma symptoms, having trouble breathing and things like that.
Is there anything you can do? Can you take a Benadryl, or what do you do?
Not with that one. So when we do get a warning from the Met Department, that's when we push the idea of wearing your masks again, because you want something to filter it before it gets into your bloodstream, or into your nose or into your air vents, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Besides that, also staying inside as much as possible and keeping your windows closed would also help. I know. I'll share an instance with myself. Chandra did bring up the fact that people who do not necessarily have those issues with asthma could still fall prey.
Right.
I remember I was driving home from work one morning, and it was particularly humid, and there was a lot of Saharan dust in the air, and I could not drive to at least home without coughing.
Wow.
I had to roll my windows up. And I think that's more so because those Saharan dust particles would be more so trapped within the water vapor in the air, the excessive water vapor, and it'll be a bit more concentrated. And so just inhaling that brought on an episode where I was like, okay, this is interesting and this is new.
Right.
Yeah, so it has a lot of of health implications there.
So people who might think they have a cold or something, but could it be Saharan dust? Could it be what's happening in the environment?
It could be, but in things like that, we always recommend that you go see a professional. You go get some sort of medical advice.
Yeah.
Don't just think, dry cough, I'll deal with it at home.
Right.
No, if it's something persistent and it's outside of the norm, especially when you know that these environmental conditions are around, we recommend that you go seek some medical advice.
And don't just be taking over-the-counter medication nonstop trying to deal with it. So it's not going to be helpful at all. Wow. All right. So are there other factors? Well, we know other factors. The heat, the dry, the rain has started now, but we had a dry spell there. We saw the forest fires, the brush fires, and those have major health consequences. Let's talk some more about that.
Yep. So even wildfire smoke, we know is dangerous outright, and that can lead to again those respiratory issues, the asthma, the COPD, any type of inflammation in the lungs. Again, when there is any sort of wildfire in your area, we recommend people, if you can, use some sort of ventilated AC system that can filter out. If you are able to install some sort of humidifiers in the house, air purifiers, they help. They work a lot, and masks, always a great thing. But again, if you are in an area where you have experienced wildfires around your homes and areas, we recommend that anything outside of your norm, seek some medical advice because you could have inhaled some sort of dangerous chemical.
Are we seeing an increase in these?
Well, speaking about wildfires, and more so the dry season that we pretty much have across the Bahamas, let me just start with our dry season versus our wet season. Our wet season usually correlates between May and October, or it overlaps with our hurricane season.
Right.
And that's where, we'd get our tropical waves or just usual summer, more or less. Now, when it comes into our dry season, that's when we would have the cold fronts coming in. And historically, they would have been giving us enough rainfall,
Right.
more or less. What we've noticed for this past dry season, it was excessively dry. I know that we were looking at just the rainfall values from January, February, and March, and they were way below the average
Right.
For this year. Leading into our fire season, which would be the last, the leg more so of our dry season, because that would where you would expect your more drier conditions coming in.
Yeah.
And from March, actually before March, from February up until May, we've seen a lot of brush fires occurring. And it was, especially large ones, it was just, we couldn't get a break. You could remember just seeing that, okay, there was a brush fire there in Abaco. Oh, another one in Grand Bahama. Oh, there's one just behind my house in New Providence. And so that also links to climate change, wherein we do expect that we'll have some drier spells, especially during our dry season, and not much rainfall. Even within our wet season, we don't the trend that we see is actually leading towards less rain days. But when the rain days come, it's excessive.
Wow.
It's excessive.
And this year is definitely holding to that pattern.
For the past few years, it has.
Okay.
Because I know that we did have excessive flooding, especially in the northern Bahamas. I didn't see the story, but I did hear that Abaco, portions in Abaco had a lot of showers. That would have been tied with the formation of tropical cyclone Chantal that formed just well to the north of us. But that's another characteristic of what we would see in climate change, where we would have less rain days, but more severe flooding as a result of ample rainfall when they do occur.
So were we in a drought earlier this year, or it wasn't to that point as yet?
We would have been considered, at least more so in drought conditions. We, at the Bahamas Department of Meteorology, we don't really use that terminology, but it's just excessively dry. But in the report from Karakoff, we were in a drought watch.
Oh, wow.
For the northern Bahamas. And essentially, another thing we could also look at when we talk about climate change is that there's a shift in the patterns, because like I said, during the dry seasons, we usually enjoy some of the rain that comes in from the
cold fronts.
For the cold fronts. However, and the southeast Bahamas from Exuma down wouldn't be getting as much rainfall. We've seen where Exuma down to Inagua has been getting a lot more water, and the northern Bahamas, we have not been getting any that at all, if anything. So they've been abnormally higher in terms of the rainfall during the dry season, and us, we've been way below our average.
Yeah, so that has major implications for farming and for the industries like salt mining, that they're going to have far-reaching consequences.
Most definitely.
Wow. All right, so are you noticing that the cold fronts are dry cold fronts and not the wet cold fronts, or is it just less rain with the cold fronts?
Those cold fronts that came through earlier this year, for some reason, they would come more so drier than usual.
Yeah.
Just some spotty showers, probably a thunderstorm or two. But once it passes New Providence for some reason. It just beelines past New Providence and saying, hey, it just flares up, and then you have some rain coming in associated with them. So that was pretty much atypical, and we were looking at that and it was like, yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
At least our in-house climatologists, they've been noticing that as well.
So what are you thinking? It is a phase we're going through, or do we think this is change? This is how it's going to be going forward?
With climate change doesn't necessarily mean a full-out change. You would have your variance in your weather patterns coming in. Like, for example, this year is not really prone to be as hot, for example, as the previous years. But rest assured, probably somewhere down the line, probably next year, we'll probably see something closer to 2023 and 2024 values.
Wow.
And that's essentially what what it is. Climate change is more so a shift in that oscillation of your variances between highs and lows. But it's just that the shift is going towards the more extreme range of that, more or less.
Wow. So, Chandra, how prepared are we for these shifts? Are knowing that things have changed quite a bit from how they were just a few years ago. From the Ministry of Health's perspective, what can you tell us, Department of Health?
Yeah. So recently, the Ministry of Health has completed and officially launched their Health National Adaptation Plan. And what that plan seeks to do is get us ready to adapt to all of these things that climate change is going to bring our way. So educating our health professionals on how climate change symptoms will look for all of those comorbidities that I mentioned earlier. Educating the public, so things like our heat health bulletin in partnership with the Met Department. And then we want to move towards some more early environmental warnings. So things like air quality, the Saharan dust that we mentioned earlier. We're going to do more of those sorts of things so people are aware of how to take care of themselves in these extreme environmental conditions. We are looking towards improving our infrastructure. So we want to not only adapt to climate change, but to kind of respect it, to retrofit our infrastructure. We want to go green. We want to be as green as possible. Even though we know on the world scale, we contribute less than 0.01% to global greenhouse gases. But we still want to say, hey, we're doing our part. So that when our higher ups, our prime minister goes and tries to seek climate funds, we can say, no, we've done all of the work that we can possibly do, and we're still bearing the brunt of these large countries. So we've definitely started to adapt in good ways, and that plan is well on its way. Yeah.
How is it being received by the public? We do notice the change in the language from the Department of Meteorology and these alerts. Are people paying attention?
We're starting to see a good uptake in the views on our heat up bulletin when they are released. We have now moved to all areas of social media trying to catch the new generation, because we know a lot of people my age don't listen to the radio anymore.
Oh dear.
Don't read the newspaper
What
anymore.
now? What?
So we're just trying to meet them where they're at. We're not trying to force them to take in information the way they don't want to. So you can follow us on all of our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, all Department of Public Health. And in those areas, you can get information on a daily basis regarding tips, warnings, events, any kind of thing to get information out to the public.
All right. We're talking with Chandra Mackey with the Department of Public Health and Javari Watson-Ramming with the Department of Meteorology, talking about climate change and your health. If you have questions, call us 323-6232, 325-16, 325-4259. Call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. All right, so we've been talking about your physical health, but does this have an impact on your mental health or in any way? Let's talk about that.
It does. It especially things like heat, it can exacerbate and send people into, trying to think of the best term here, into a state of psychosis. And we do have a mental health unit that is kind of moving in the Department of Health to go around the islands to educate people on the impacts and being aware. And they're even developing a psychosocial network that is training people in the neighborhoods to be able to help a fellow neighbor in any sort of emergency situation.
Right. Wow.
I'll add to that as well. You know that summer nights are very warm.
Oh yeah.
Quite warm. And even though we are not really much in a full-on heat wave, we have noted that our nighttime temperatures, they have risen significantly over the past few years as
I really
well.
don't remember as a kid lows in the 80s. It's insane.
Exactly. And so just looking at, I think we got, we did get into the low 80s. We're not anticipating to get any, probably upper 70s, possibly with this movement of some rain coming through. But I would also add, I can't imagine people who don't have AC units in their homes, not being able to just have some comfort while they sleep. So even then, that could disrupt sleep patterns and ultimately just affect your overall physical and mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Okay, call us back. 323-6232, 325-4316. 325-4259. Do the changes make it harder to deal with issues like fighting forest fires, brush fires? Is that making it more challenging, or does that not have any impact on it? We're seeing some that are not going away. It's taking longer to get a fire under control. Does that have an impact?
Yes. Especially with this dry season, we had ample fuel, more or less, that would have more so caused these excessively large brush fires occurring.
Yeah.
And they occur quick and they spread fast because of the availability of dry shrubs. And so answering that, it is, especially if current systems that are in place aren't able to adapt to that evolution of just on the forefront of course, it's not going to be that easy. It's going to be quite challenging to try and get things under control. If you're still, let's just say you're trying to use a paintbrush to draw some kind of portrait, but then now you need to use that same portrait, brush to more or less try to do a whole mural on a wall. It wouldn't be as effective. So even with our emergency services, there has to be some kind of call to ensure that they have a state of readiness as well, especially, and that's something that we could possibly work on in the future. Talking about ensuring that the message gets to them saying, hey, for this year, upcoming year, you're going to have lower instances of rainfall that would lead to drought-like conditions across these particular islands of the Bahamas. See if you'd be able to have these equipments in place and so on. But the Bahamas Department of Meteorology, I must say, is trying to be as proactive as possible and trying to engage our partners as well as other intergovernmental agencies so that we would be able to play a vital role. It's not just about forecasting the weather, but especially just more so trying to get the messaging out there and see how best we can make that impact.
Absolutely. Wow. So I was watching a program a few weeks back, and they were talking about the surface temperatures in cities and with all the concrete and the asphalt and how hot it gets. And they were talking about a program to plant a whole lot more trees and how much of a difference they could test it and see that the temperatures came down quite dramatically. Let's talk about the role trees can play in dealing with these incredibly hot summers and and even winters that we're seeing, and other things that we can do to help mitigate the effects of climate change.
Yep.
Chandra?
So if we start with the things like green spaces, like we call them, so planting more trees, things on days of air quality help to better the air quality because they take in those pollutants and turn them into something good in terms of producing more oxygen. They also provide areas for people to cool down. So there's more shade. There's more areas for people to go outside, enjoy fresh air, and be cool. In terms of, there's also a thing called green and gray infrastructure, where you try to be at least net zero or close to net zero. Those are the things that have like motion sensor switches, so lights come on and off as needed if someone's not in the room, just overall bringing the carbon pollution of a building down. I've seen studies where they're testing now what happens if you paint your roofs white in terms of leaving the shingles the regular color that they are to kind of bounce heat rays off so the internal temperature of your house is cooler. I haven't seen anything like that done at home, but
people are doing it. People are doing
People
it.
are.
Yeah.
Well,
and we've got an advertiser that talks about their product almost every day on the show.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So I've seen things like that worldwide and the benefits that they have. So it's actually great to know that people are doing it here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Javari, what about you? What else can we do? Is there anything meteorologists wish that the public would do to help mitigate climate change?
I'm just sticking with.
Get a little closer to the microphone,
Sorry,
please.
just sticking with the theme of let's just say green spaces versus urban areas. We know that especially when we have episodes of excessive rainfall, our urban areas could get one
flooding
small
is out of
deluge.
control.
Yes, most definitely. And so one thing I would hope that we are able to do is manage our, especially our drainage system a bit more properly and more efficiently, ensuring that there is some way where, the excessive water can kind of move out of the area and more so matriculate from the areas and where they need to go into the aquifers. And that just ensuring that overall safety is just pretty much paramount because we know that, especially with flooding, it could still be hazardous, not just the immediate effects, but also when you have still water just staying there, you have that increase in possible vectors, mosquito-borne diseases going as well. So more so a tag team with anybody involved with Ministry of Works, as well as in the Ministry of Environmental Health as well, with fogging activities, especially if, over 2, 3, 4 days, you have that still water there. You could go and kind of fog areas out just to cut down on those instances where we could possibly get an outbreak of those diseases.
Yeah, wow. I want you to tell that story that you told us off air, but that you heard.
Yeah,
about the couple.
I was in my sofa yesterday evening, and I just saw this story came up on my Facebook feed about a couple that was at a baseball game. That the children pretty much said that they were quite excited to go and see the game, and they were diabetics.
The couple,
both of them were diabetics. And when they went to go to see the game or view the game, it was particularly hot that day. And they're still investigating exactly what happened with them, but unfortunately, both of them passed away within minutes of each other. Just waiting for the game
They're
to
right
start.
there at the stadium. They died.
Right there at the stadium. And by the time anyone was alerted to them being in any health medical distress, it was too late. And so that was quite unfortunate, but it also goes to the fact that we do have, like I said earlier before the show started, everyone is at risk. Every single person is at risk of any heat stress. But there are populations within our country that are more susceptible.
Yeah.
And especially being a diabetic, you have any cardiovascular disease, even people who have asthma, the children, the elderly, those are the key target groups that would more so fall prey to any heat stress before any other normal individual outside of those categories, more or less.
Wow.
It's just unfortunate. And I mean, you get to see these stories occur. I think I think 2 weeks ago when the U.S. was having their heat wave, I believe that there were, at least the last count I remembered, were 16 people passing away as a result of that heat wave.
Yeah.
And so it is no joke.
Unbelievable.
And especially with the trends in the climate from what we're seeing. And it's not just concentrated to just those land areas. We are also falling prey to that as well. So,
and I have to say, this is just me, but we know it's hot in the Bahamas in the summer. I don't know why you're having outdoor events in the middle of the day here. I don't get it. Have it later in the evening, into the night. Even the nights are hot. I was at an event last week at night. We were sweating.
Yeah.
It's so warm. So we have things, maybe you could have done this 20 years ago, 1 o'clock in July, but I don't know if you can today, if you should today. So even the schedule of our events, we might need to rethink, and definitely where you put them.
Yep.
But thank you for being here this morning and getting the word out on what's being done and what needs to be done in terms of health and climate change. Thank you both. Chandra Mackey with Department of Public Health and Javari Watson-Ramming with Department of Meteorology. Thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to take a break and be back to wrap things up. This is Boarding Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9.
And deeper than the deep to sea. That's how I will love you, darling, endlessly.
At CFAL, we understand that a secure future is the greatest gift you can give your employees. That's why our tailor-made group pension solutions are designed to fit the needs of both large and small companies. With CFAL, you can provide the retirement you and your employees deserve, ensuring peace of mind and financial stability for years to come. Join the many businesses that have already entrusted CFAL to create the right pension plan for their employees, and let us help you build a brighter future for your team. Visit us at cfal.com to get started on building wealth so you can live well. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
With RBC, your idea of loving every journey happens now. Free up cash with affordable auto financing from RBC. With competitive rates and no bank fees, it's the perfect time to make every journey something special. Apply now to pre-qualify in 60 seconds at rbc.loan to shop with confidence. Conditions apply. RBC, your idea of loving your journey happens here.
Get ready to catch the thrill and and win with Shell. Fuel up with $20 or more and unlock your shot at unforgettable prizes.
We're talking regatta trips to Exuma and Harbor Island.
Free fuel, grocery vouchers, water park passes, and more. Just snap your receipt and WhatsApp it to us at 242-422-0271. The vibes are high, the prizes are hot, and the summer is yours to win with Shell. Only at participating Shell stations in Nassau. Now through August 22nd. Terms and conditions apply.
You work hard for your money, so let your money work hard for you. With as little as $1,000 to start, you can watch your money grow by investing in CFAL's Bahamian dollar and US dollar mutual funds, each tailored to match your unique investment profile. Our expert advisors are dedicated to crafting personalized investment strategies to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't miss out on the chance to earn higher returns on your hard-earned money. Join the thousands of investors who trust CFAL and start your journey toward financial freedom today. Visit us at cfal.com to learn more about our saving and investment options. And let us help you build wealth so you can live well. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.
It is time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. The Bahamas is considering tying its dollar to a basket of currencies instead of solely to the U.S. dollar in order to facilitate easier trading with countries outside the U.S. Prime Minister Philip Davis said this during the AfroExim annual meetings in Abuja, Nigeria. Davis added that CARICOM and African nations should also consider a digital currency that they can all participate in order to facilitate easier trade. Davis making the remarks when asked during a panel discussion what currency African and Caribbean countries should be using to trade in the future. You can read more about that. Surprising comments there in today's Guardian Business section. Opposition leader Michael Pintard is once again calling on the Ministry of Finance and Minister of Finance Philip Davis, who's the Prime Minister, to explain the number of no-bid contracts that have been given that are in contravention of the Public Procurement Act 2023. Pintard saying in a statement released yesterday that in the past 2 years, the Ministry of Finance has approved $369 million worth of contracts without putting them out to bid. According to reports produced by the Department of Public Procurement for the period of December 2023 to April 2025, the Ministry of Finance has been responsible for almost 90% of the value of all reported government contracts for that period. Typically, contracts worth more than $250,000 require a competitive bidding process. CIBC Caribbean Bank has reported a net income of $30.32 million for the second quarter of this year, up from $2.3 million. Or up $2.3 million from the second quarter last year. Outgoing Managing Director of CIBC, Dr. Jackie Bend, saying in the bank's condensed consolidated financial statements for quarter two ending April that for the second quarter ended April, the bank reported this net income. Core growth continued across business segments in both the loan. However, the related revenue uplift has been offset by the impact of lower U.S. benchmark interest rates and funding dynamics. And Independence Day sales are rising, but not to the levels of the country's 50th year celebrations just yet. You can read today's Guardian Business section to see what they're saying, what retailers are saying about this so far. Overseas, the Trump administration is stepping up pressure on trading partners to quickly make new deals before Wednesday deadline, with plans for the United States to start sending letters today warning countries that higher tariffs could kick in by August 1st. That furthers the uncertainty for businesses, consumers, and the U.S.'s trading partners, and questions remain about which countries will be notified, whether anything will change in the days ahead, and whether U.S. President Donald Trump will once again push off imposing the rates. Trump and his top trade advisors say he could extend the time for deal making, but they insist the administration is applying maximum pressure on other countries. Meanwhile, the European Union expects to find out today whether President Trump will impose punishing tariffs on the U.S.'s largest trade partner, and a move economists have warned could have repercussions for companies and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. Trump's imposed 20% import tax on all EU-made products in early April as part of a set of tariffs targeting countries with which the United States has a trade imbalance. Hours after the nation's specific duties took effect, he put them on hold until July 9th, and a standard rate of 10% to quiet financial markets and allow time for negotiations. In your Market Watch recapping trading on the BISX from Friday, your market movers, Consolidated Water, closing at $6.57, up 31 cents. Emira Incorporated up 4 cents, closing at $11.18. The BISX All-Share Index closing at 3,025.18, up 0.35. Recapping the week, the local market ended the week with 86,080 shares crossing the exchange, with 19 trades accumulating a value of $486,399. The BISX All-Share Index lost 15.34 points, or 0.505%. Year-to-date, the index is up 16.64 points, or 0.553%. The week's volume and value leader, Commonwealth Bank, moving 65,200 shares in 4 trades for a value of $314,763. That's your Market Watch, and that is your morning business report brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. Tune in to CFAL Talks tonight at 6:30 p.m. right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Deandra Cartwright, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much, Dwight, Sean, for having me.
I'll see you next week, and I'll be back tomorrow morning with more Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business right here on Guardian